Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. This is the trigram Kun Earth. Two tails, one head, yang yang. Two heads, one tail, yang yin. Three heads, old yang. Our primary trigram, primary hexagram, the bottom trigram will be read as broken, 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 which is Kun Earth. Kun is Earth, open to receive and support what comes to her, providing for its full development. She makes inspiration manifest, gives it form, and sustains its growth. Earth is available to be used, ready to lend her strength to the work without limit. She protects and accepts all things in their totality, present and potential, in an unconditional embrace. Earth is mother, found in the southwest and the harvest time of late summer and early autumn. The top or outer trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, broken, solid. This is Li, fire and light. Li is fire and light, both inner and outer. As an inner light, she is consciousness at its most lucid and unclouded, holding things together in the mind, perceiving their differences and connections, and discerning the underlying patterns of relationship. And as well as vision, Li is the light that makes things visible, the power to cast light on things, spreading clarity and the awareness of order. Li is the middle daughter, living in the south, the region of midsummer and the burning sun. Li, fire and light above Kun earth, give us the hexagram. $35. Once our sixth line transforms from an old yang to a young yin, that will give us an outer trigram or upper trigram of solid, broken, broken, which is the trigram Zen thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son in the trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Yang makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. Zen thunder above Kun earth give us a supporting hexagram of 16. We'll be getting our titles to the hexagrams from I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Hexagram 35, I-ming calls advance, clear-minded sincerity, advancing illumination. And supporting hexagram 16, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, joy, proper timing in action. We will start by reading from Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future, which is a nice introductory I Ching commentary, yet quite profound. Hexagram 35, Advance, Hilary Barrett calls advancing. Key questions. What gifts and opportunities have you been given? How can you make the most of them? When we approach the I Ching to consult the oracle, the general context of the question we bring to it will always be, how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time? Oracle. Advancing, Prince Kang used a gift of horses to breed a multitude. In the course of a day, he mated them 3 times. Prince Kang was the brother of Wu, the martial king, who became first ruler of the Zhao dynasty. He supported him faithfully, and Wu rewarded him with a gift of horses. So when you are like Kang, you have remarkable gifts of strength and inspiration, gifts as beautiful as horses, that enable you to travel further and faster. You are popular. You are blessed. Kang did not sit back and admire his horses. He worked intensively to multiply them and magnify the gift. To be truly blessed, you need to act accordingly. To advance and prosper, you need to seize all you are given as an opportunity. Image. Light comes forth over the earth, advancing. A noble one's own light shines in her character. The light emerging over the earth is like sunrise. Just as the sun appears to be daily renewed and sustained by the earth, so the noble one's light emerges from her character, which is the earth she's made of. Her inner quality, her willingness to give and receive, sustains the shining light in everything she does. Sequence. Advancing follows from Hexagram 34, Great Vigor. Almost looks like a fairy flying. That's interesting. Things cannot be completed with vigor, and so advancing follows. Advancing means making progress. It is not enough just to be strong and stand firm. You will want to make the most of the strength you have and make it mean something by putting it to use. Pair. Advancing forms a pair with Hexagram 36, Brightness Hidden. Advancing means daylight. Brightness hidden means castigation. Now you are the one who is popular, blessed, and bathed in sunlight. Sometimes you are the one who is punished, pursued, and cast out into the dark. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 16, joy, Hilary Barrett calls enthusiasm. Key questions. What do you imagine? What inspires you? How can you use your enthusiasm constructively? Oracle, enthusiasm, fruitful to set up feudal lords and mobilize the armies. The Chinese word for enthusiasm contains an elephant, a character that also means image. The elephant is magnificent, strong, a source of delight, and also unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Imagination and anticipation move us with ease. With them, we can be motivated and inspired, or we can be carried away by the power of our own story. The energetic charge of enthusiasm can be used to set great things in motion. It is good to use it to expand and enrich your experience by extending your network of communication and support, marshaling your resources ready for future challenges. And it is also good to use such structures to channel the motive power of enthusiasm and keep it from running amok. Then its brightly colored images can be woven securely into the larger patterns and meanings of life. Image. Thunder bursts forth from the earth, enthusiasm. The ancient kings composed music to honor virtue. They celebrated and worshipped the Supreme Lord, joining with their ancestors. Thunder bursts forth from the quiet earth in spring, waking the plants, stirring everything into growth. The ancient kings channeled the joy of spring into music. Singing with the thunder, the people participated in ever-rising energies. Their spontaneous emotion becomes part of a rich and subtle fabric of relationships. The harmony of music, veneration for the supreme divinity, and the family of the ancestors. Sequence. Enthusiasm follows from hexagram 15, integrity. One who possesses greatness and is also capable of integrity is naturally enthusiastic. Integrity grounds enthusiasm, giving its potent images the foundation in ordinary reality that makes them visions rather than fantasies. Someone who has an authentic vision of great potential cannot help but be enthusiastic. And we will look at our changing line 6 from our primary hexagram 35. What is it? Yeah, advanced 35, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here's some places you may find yourself. Takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 6 has the general context beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. Changing line 6 of hexagram 35, advance. Advancing with your horns, holding fast, use this to subjugate the city. Danger, good fortune, not a mistake. Constancy, shame. You tap into your strongest motivation, throw your whole self into the effort, and charge headlong for your goal. You may not have any very clear idea of how to direct your energy, but you hold fast to your objective and refuse to let it go. At least you will not miss any opportunity for lack of trying. This kind of approach can be used to attain a single, central, personal goal, something specific that is within your own realm. It's dangerous, but you use that to spur yourself into determined action and break through fear or self-doubt. However, this is only a short-term tactic. To adopt the horns first approach in the long term would be shameful. Next, we will turn to I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as the Taoist Adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Hexagram 35, advance. Advancing, a securely established lord presents many horses and grants audience 3 times in a day. Explanation. Advance is progress. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is fire, luminous, and below is earth, receptive, producing understanding by receptivity, using understanding to practice receptivity, according with the time and according with truth. Illumination grows day by day, therefore it is called advance. This hexagram represents being sincere and clear-minded, advancing the firing. It follows on the previous hexagram, withdrawal. Withdrawal means stilling strength and not using it lightly. If one does not use strength lightly, then the mind is empty and open. When the mind is empty, it is observant and careful, not being fooled by desire for things. Within black there is white. Spiritual illumination comes of itself. The original nature of innate knowledge and capacity in people is bright and lucid. Its quality is fundamentally illumined. By mixing with acquired conditioning, however, the discriminatory consciousness takes over and the human mentality arises, so the mind of Tao is concealed. Thus, the strength of innate knowledge changes into delinquent assertiveness, and the receptivity of innate capacity changes into delinquent pliability. When the mind gets mixed up in things, this shuts down the openness of awareness, and the spiritual luminosity is obscured. When sages teach people to advance the fire, This is just a matter of promoting restoration of illumination from non-illumination. The work of fostering illumination cannot be done without obedience, which means according with the time and according with truth. When always maintaining the mind of Tao and not producing the human mentality, knowledge and capacity are good. What heaven bestows on humans is good, and people who submit to heaven, obey heaven, and accord with heaven are good too. When heaven and humanity act in concert, there is spontaneous truthfulness and illumination. That illumination grows daily, from subtle to evident, gradually advancing to a realm of lofty understanding and far-reaching vision. This is represented by a securely established Lord presenting many horses and granting audience 3 times in a day. A securely established Lord is a ruler in a state of security, tranquility, and peace. The hour of the horse is noon, which is in the province of the image of the light of fire. Multitude is what is produced by the earth, so it is in the province of the image of receptivity of earth. A day is the light of a day. Illumination is above. Granting audience 3 times is the receptivity of earth. Receptivity is below. People's real mind with innate knowledge and capacity is the master of the body, like a secure ruler. The real mind not turning away from innate good, using both illumination and receptivity, is like a secure ruler giving many horses as presents. Producing understanding by receptivity, using understanding to practice receptivity, is like granting audience 3 times a day. 3 audiences means repeated reception, so that the unreceptive will eventually become receptive. Therein is the work of eliminating falsehood and maintaining truth. When one eliminates falsehood and maintains truth, the human mind becomes submissive and receptive, and the mind of Tao becomes manifest. Truthfulness leads to illumination. Illumination leads to truthfulness. When truthfulness and illumination are simultaneously included, one clarifies the quality of illumination and rests in the highest good. Then the work of advancing the fire is completed. And our supporting hexagram 16, Joy, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. It is advantageous to set up a ruler and mobilize the army. Explanation. Joy is happiness. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is thunder, active, and below is earth, compliant. Acting in accord with the time, active yet also compliant, it is therefore called joy. This hexagram represents summoning yang by yin. It follows on the previous hexagram, great possession. In great possession, strength and understanding are employed together. It is the path of wealth and daily renewal. For wealth to be daily renewed, it is necessary to act in accord with the time. Only then can one succeed. If one can accord with the time, then the promotion of strength can be correct, and the use of intelligence can be appropriate. The firing process does not go wrong. The measure of the elements is regulated. Haste and relaxation are in order, and advance and withdrawal accord with the appropriate time and measure. Reaching effortlessness by way of effort, there is no problem of losing what one has gained. What is the happiness of harmonious action like? As an image of harmonious action, nothing compares to setting up a ruler and mobilizing the army. The ruler is the leader of the nation, and the general is the leader of the army. When the leader is set up in accord with the timing of heaven, then the country is peaceful. When the mobilization of the army is in accord with people's hearts, then the troops are complete. The mind is the leader of the body, like the ruler and the general. As it is beneficial to set up a ruler and mobilize the army for harmonious action, so is it beneficial to rectify the mind and train the body. If one acts in accord with the time, it is beneficial. If one's action is not in accord with the time, it is not beneficial. When it is beneficial, one attains happiness. When it is not beneficial, one is not happy. The path of producing happiness is the consummation of harmonious action. Next, we'll look at the changing line 6 of our primary hexagram 35, Advance, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. Takes precedence over all other elements and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 6 has the general context, beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. Hexagram 35, Advance, changing line 6. Advancing the horns, this requires conquering one's domain. There is danger, but it bodes well, so there will be no blame. But even though correct, it is humiliating. Explanation. Adamant strength overcoming oneself, only knowing how to advance illumination, but not how to empty illumination. This therefore calls for conquering one's own domain. One's domain means one's personal domain. Conquering one's own domain means the work of overcoming oneself. The work of overcoming oneself is emptying the human mind. If one does not empty the human mind and relies on adamant strength alone, strength must overcome strength. There is bound to be danger before gaining good results and becoming blameless. Using illumination in this way, even though one conquers oneself and attains correctness, it is still in the province of striving and does not come about spontaneously. So one does not avoid humiliation before the wise. This is illumination in which one is strong but too proud. So in the path of advancing illumination and operating the firing, before illumination one must first seek illumination. Once illumined, then one should empty that illumination, making it open. With emptiness and fulfillment working together, firmness and flexibility balance each other. Spontaneously sincere and clear-minded, with illumination based on truthfulness, the illumination progresses daily, grows daily more lofty, so it can be used without end, taken without exhaustion. The earth is ever covered with yellow sprouts. The world is filled with golden blossoms. There is nowhere one cannot use illumination, nowhere that can damage that illumination. Oh yeah, we will also look at the commentary section for each of our hexagrams, which is maybe a little bit more alchemical. Advance, fire above, earth below. Light emerges over the earth, advancing. Thus do superior people by themselves illumine the quality of enlightenment. Advance is progress. Above is fire, associated with the sun, and below is earth. This is the sun emerging over the earth. The sun is light. The earth is basically dark. When the light of the sun emerges over the earth, it goes from darkness to light. This is the image of advance. What superior people see in this is that just as the sun sets and also rises, in the same way people can obscure their good qualities and also can illumine them. Therefore, superior people take it upon themselves to illumine the quality of enlightenment. To illumine means to make manifest. The quality of enlightenment is the spiritual nature of innate knowledge and the innate capacity that is fundamental to humankind. This nature is originally truly open, subtly existing, radiantly bright, without obscurity. But once it is mixed with acquired temperament, it goes from clarity to obscurity and loses its basic nature. But as unclarity comes from oneself, so also does clarity come from oneself. It is just a matter of whether one illumines this nature by oneself or not. If one actually knows how to illumine enlightenment, then one can illumine it. One should set right to work to cultivate it, clearing away all accumulated blockage, shed all kinds of feelings about things, and work on the ground of reality. Being careful and wary, nipping insidious inroads of conditioning in the bud, the human mentality disappears of itself and the mind of Tao manifests of itself. Temperament spontaneously sublimates, and the real nature spontaneously is revealed. This then is the original open awareness without obscurity, round and bright, clean and naked, bare and untrammeled. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 16, joy, thunder above, earth below. When thunder emerges, the earth stirs, joy. Thus did the kings of yore make music to honor virtue, offering it in abundance to God, thereby to share it with their ancestors. Joy is happiness. Above is thunder, below is earth. This is thunder coming from the earth, stirring and rising up. When positive energy prevails harmoniously, all things are pleasantly uplifted by it. This is the image of joy. What the kings of yore saw in this was that virtue is what is commanded by heaven and is the root of human life. So it should be a joy to cultivate and practice it. Therefore they made music to honor virtue. Joy is that whereby virtue is made harmonious. Virtue is that whereby joy is made complete. If one creates enjoyments without honoring virtue, that is called creating enjoyment in the midst of misery. But by using joy to harmonize virtue, the virtue becomes more exalted. By using virtue to create joy, the joy becomes more harmonious. When virtue and joy coincide, this is called true happiness. The richness of the music of that happiness and joy is sufficient to offer to God and to share with the ancestors. Since what God likes is virtue, and what the ancestors like is virtue too, offerings to God and to the ancestors are offerings of virtue. When one creates enjoyment and happiness without losing virtue, this is obeying God and remembering the ancestors. Obeying God is answering heaven. Remembering the ancestors is repaying our debt. When people are born, they receive their lives from God and their bodies from their ancestors. The body is that whereby life is carried. Life is that whereby the body is completed. Since the body and life are inseparable, repaying our debt is answering heaven. Answering heaven is repaying our debt. When we answer heaven and repay our debt, we can be happy. Such is the effect of finding joy in honoring virtue. How can people be happy without honoring virtue? Next, we will look at James Dekorne's Gnostic Book of Changes, which I've left links to in the description box below. He is a practitioner of the Tao himself and has left helpful editor's notes and quotes from things like the Kabbalah or Carl Jung. Our primary hexagram, 35, James Dekorne calls Advance of Consciousness. Other titles might be Progress, Prospering, the symbol of forwardness, to advance, advancement, making headway, getting the idea, comes the dawn. Also, he synthesizes several I-ming commentaries here into one helpful place. So that's what all the last names of the translators are. Judgment, leg. In advance of consciousness, we see a prince who secures the tranquility of the people, presented on that account with numerous horses by the king, and 3 times in a day received at interviews. Blowfold, progress. The richly endowed prince receives royal favors in the form of numerous steeds and is granted audience 3 times in a single day. This passage indicates great merit, richly rewarded. Lu, the Marquis Kong, rich, powerful, healthy, is bestowed with many horses by the king, who receives him 3 times in a single day. Ritzema/Karcher, prospering. The calm feudatory avails of bestowing horses to multiply the multitudes. Daytime, sun, 3 times reflected. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of thriving in the full light of the sun. It emphasizes that contributing to this increase by helping things to flourish is the adequate way to handle it. Wu, advancement indicates that the prince who has secured peace and prosperity of the state is conferred with many fine horses. The king grants him an audience 3 times in one day. The image, leg. The image of the earth, that of the bright sun coming forth above it, form advance of consciousness. And that of the bright sun coming forth above it, form advance of consciousness. The superior man, in accordance with this, gives himself to make more brilliant his bright virtue. Wilhelm/Baines, the sun rises over the earth, the image of progress. Thus the superior man himself brightens his bright virtue. Blowfold, this hexagram symbolizes fire blazing from the earth. The superior man reflects in his person the glory of heaven's virtue. Ritzema/Karcher, brightness issuing forth above earth, prospering. A Chunsu, or chief son or superior person, uses originating enlightening to brighten actualizing Tao. To actualize Tao is the ability to follow the course traced by the ongoing process of the cosmos, linked with acquire, D, which is acquiring that which makes a being become what it is meant to be. Wu, brightness rises above the earth. This is advancement. Thus the Chunsi keeps his bright virtue shining. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. In advance of consciousness, we have the bright sun appearing above the earth, the symbol of docile submission, cleaving to that of the great brightness. And the magnetic line advanced and moving above. All these things give us the idea of a prince who secures the tranquility of the people. Leg. The subject of the judgment is a feudal prince whose services to his country have made him acceptable to his king. The king's favor has been shown to him by gifts and personal attentions. The symbolism of the lines indicates the situations encountered by the prince. The written character for this hexagram means to advance, a quality it shares with the hexagrams number 46, pushing upward, and number 53, gradual progress. In the present case, the sun ascending from the earth to the meridian readily suggests the idea of advancing. Hu Ping Wen, Yuan Dynasty, says, "Of the strong things there is none so strong as heaven, and hence the superior man patterns himself on its strength. Of bright things there is none so bright as the sun, and he patterns himself on its brightness." Anthony, this hexagram concerns self-development, which yields progress in our external life situation. If we are not making progress, we should review our attitude. Some widely accepted ideas may be decadent from the viewpoint of the sage, hence obstruct progress. Anthony's sage is conceptually identical to the self. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. When the autonomous manifestations of our inner drives are channeled, their energy becomes the ego's own. Psychologically interpreted, ego and self are in accord. The superior man focuses his awareness on perfecting the work. Sometimes this can take the meaning of wise up. The trigram of clarity in progression over that of docility gives the formula for an advance of consciousness. the submission of the ego to the restrictions of the work, and the consequent tranquil subjugation of one's restless drives, appetites, and impulses eventually results in a focused flow of energy from within. After years of effort, this is sometimes felt physically as a radiating sensation emanating from the chest or heart region. To receive this figure without changing lines does not necessarily mean that one has reached this phase of the work, but it suggests progress in that direction. The traditional name for this hexagram is in fact progress. The king presenting horses to the prince in reward for pacifying the kingdom is analogous to the self rewarding the ego for controlling the autonomous forces within the psyche. This is a quintessentially shamanic discipline. The horses symbolize tamed drives and emotions. Such circumstances indicate an advance of consciousness or progression toward the goal of enlightenment or psychic integration, symbolized by the sun traversing the earth. A quote from E.C. Whitmont in The Symbolic Quest. That state of life dynamism in which consciousness realizes itself as a split and separated personality that yearns and strives toward union with its unknown and unknowable partner, the self, Jung has called the individuation process. It is a conscious striving for becoming what one is, or rather is meant to be. The last sentence of the above quotation is exactly analogous to the Ritsuma/Karcher translation of the image of this hexagram, wherein the superior man, Junsu, uses originating enlightening to brighten actualizing Tao. Actualizing Tao is the ability to follow the course traced by the ongoing process of the cosmos, linked with acquire, D, which is acquiring that which makes a being become what it is meant to be. Psychologically interpreted, then, this hexagram addresses various themes encountered during the progress of the individuation process, which is nothing if not an advance of consciousness. The key phrase in Legg's judgment is tranquility of the people. It is relatively easy to sublimate one's drives, yet still feel resentful about it. Indeed, that is the form that the process normally takes at the beginning of the work. Our inner forces are like children or animals who must learn to accept the restrictions of discipline. Once they have accepted it and have ceased to resent it, i.e., once they have become tranquil, they are ready to be useful to the self's intentions. For example, an untrained dog will instinctively chase and kill sheep if it gets the chance to do so. On the other hand, a properly trained dog will herd and control a flock of sheep even if in its master's absence. Anyone who has observed a trained sheepdog in action knows what amazing feats they accomplish with great joy in the performance. They are tranquil in their role and will even protect the sheep from untrained dogs that would kill them. When our instincts have learned how to tranquilly accept discipline, they are ready to assist us in the higher levels of the work. Until that time, the work consists largely of dog training. The analogy is apt because just as an untrained dog is never as happy as in its willfulness as a well-trained dog is in its purposefulness, so undisciplined permissiveness cannot compare with the joys of controlled power and focused intent. And our supporting hexagram 16, joy, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. James Dekorne calls enthusiasm/self-deception/repose. Other titles might be the symbol of harmonious joy, repose, happiness, providing for or provision, excess, merriment, self-confidence, contentment, harmonize, excitement, intemperance, self-deception. A quote from D.F. Hook, repose in the absolute confidence that the action now being taken is right, also refers to music. Judgment, Legg. Enthusiasm indicates that feudal princes may be set up and the army advantageously mobilized. Wilhelm/Bain's enthusiasm, it furthers one to install helpers and to set armies marching. Blofeld, Repose profits those engaged in building up the country and sending forth armies. This means that perfect certainty as to the rightness of our course is of great value under the conditions mentioned. The usual meaning of this character is beforehand or happiness. In the English translation of Wilhelm's version, it appears as enthusiasm. Repose was suggested by the Chinese experts who kindly vetted this manuscript. At first, I felt hesitant about adopting it until I realized that where it is used favorably, it must be understood as the kind of mental repose which follows absolute confidence that the action now being taken is the right one. In lines 1, 3, and 6, however, it clearly means failure to act when action is essential. In line 5, failure to act owing to incapacity. Lu. Happiness. It is of benefit to build up the country or business and send the army forth. Receivers of this hexagram should be wary of exhibiting excessive enthusiasm when beginning a new undertaking. If they are not, there will be misfortune. The hexagram also advises that everything necessary for advancement should be made ready. Then, if an opportunity presents itself, it should be seized immediately without hesitation. Ritsamasashkarcher, providing for, harvesting, installing feudatories to move legions. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of what is needed to meet the future. It emphasizes that accumulating strength through foresight and prudence so things can be fully enjoyed is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time you are told to provide for. The image, leg. Thunder exploding out of the earth, the image of enthusiasm. The ancient kings, in accordance with this, composed their music and honored virtue, offering it especially to God when they worshipped him at the service of their ancestors. Ritsamasashkarcher, thunder issuing forth from earth impetuously, providing for. The earlier kings used arousing delight to extol actualizing Tao, exalting worship's supreme above, using equalizing the grandfather predecessors. To actualize Tao is the ability to follow the course traced by the ongoing process of the cosmos, linked with acquire, D, acquiring that which makes a being become what it is meant to be. Wu, thunder breaks out above the earth with a boom. This is merriment. Thus the ancient kings used music to praise virtuous accomplishments and made grand offerings to the Supreme Being to be accompanied by their ancestors. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. Enthusiasm shows one dynamic line, inspiring responsive obedience in all the others. Devoted obedience takes action. Such obedient action conforms to natural law and creates order and discipline in the people. The planets and the seasons follow their natural cycles. The sages similarly obey the laws of their nature, and the people acknowledge their regulations and punishments are as just. Leg. Enthusiasm shows harmony and contentment throughout the kingdom, a time when the people rejoice in their sovereign and readily obey him. At such a time, his appointments and any military undertakings would be hailed and supported. Because he is close to the fifth place of dignity, the dynamic fourth line is seen as the chief executive officer of the ruler. The ruler has confidence in him, and all of the magnetic lines yield their obedience. Obedience is the attribute of the lower trigram, which here takes the initiative and uses movement, which is the attribute of the upper trigram. The symbolism of the image is more obscure than usual. The use of music at sacrifices is supposed to assist in producing the union between God and his worshippers, as well as the present and past generations. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Delegate authority and gather your forces. The superior man synchronizes his will with the intent of the self via the principles of the work. Enthusiasm is the reverse of the preceding hexagram of temperance. In temperance, we saw the calm strength of a mountain concealed within the earth. In enthusiasm, we see thunder exploding out of the ground into the sky. The strength that was formerly tempered and restrained is now released. It is significant to note that while every line of temperance is more or less favorable Every line of enthusiasm is either negative or cautionary. Even the generally positive fourth line carries a hint of warning about doubt. Negatively, self-deception, the passion of true believers, seems to be what this hexagram is portraying. The figure often suggests a callow or deluded buoyancy, the kind of outlook associated with romantic idealists. In its most negative aspect, enthusiasm is intemperance, the exact opposite of the moderation and restraint shown in the preceding hexagram. The behavior of an untrained Great Dane puppy suddenly bursting into a formal dining party could be described as enthusiasm, but hardly a desirable form thereof. The lower trigram of obedient devotion has suddenly employed the action and energy of the upper trigram of thunderous shock to express itself. This is inconsistent with the code of the superior man. Conversely, in its most positive sense, enthusiasm suggests the surety of total self-confidence. Blofeld translates this as repose, explaining that the name was suggested to him by his Chinese advisors. We begin to understand this subtle distinction when we compare the seemingly obscure connection with music in the image with a passage from Chuang-Tzu. He who understands the music of heaven lives in accordance with nature and in his life and takes part in the process of change of things in his death. In repose, his character is in harmony with the yin principle. In activity, his movement is in harmony with the yang principle. Therefore, he who understands the music of heaven is not blamed by heaven or criticized by men. It is said, in action he is like heaven, in repose he is like the earth. Because his mind has found repose, therefore the creation pays homage to him. To understand the music of heaven is to attain repose, which is another way of describing the tranquility that comes with furthering the intent of the self. The only dynamic line in the hexagram is in the minister's place, just below the fifth line ruler. He has the confidence of his sovereign, and his actions therefore accord with heaven. We can turn to the Stoics to find an illustration of this idea. In Epictetus, my will is simply that which comes to pass, for I esteem what God wills better than what I will. To him will I cleave as his minister and attendant, having the same movements, the same desires, in a word, the same will as he. Thus we see that the hexagram can describe either one of two opposite conditions: the intemperate enthusiasm of ego-confidence, a synonym for self-deception, or the calm repose of true self-confidence, capitalized self. The 15th and 16th hexagrams, each the inverse of the other, represent magnetic and dynamic aspects of the same general idea. Enthusiasm, when it emanates from the self, is just temperance in action. And we will turn to our changing line 6 in our primary hexagram 35, advancement of consciousness, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here some places you may find yourself, takes precedence over all other elements, and is the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 6 has the general context of beyond the main action, reviewing experience, asking what comes next. Advance of consciousness, 35, changing line 6. Leg. The sixth line dynamic shows one advancing his horns, but he only uses them to punish the rebellious people in his own city. The position is perilous, but there will be good fortune. Yet, however firm and correct he may be, there will be occasion for regret. Blofeld, he advances as with lowered horns, intent solely upon subduing the cities of his enemies. Whether his affairs go awry or prosper, he is not in error, but for him to persist thus would involve him in ignominy, or to continue brings humiliation. Commentary, Confucius/Leg, his course of procedure is not yet brilliant. Wilhelm/Baines. The way is not yet in the light. Blowfold. Solely to subdue the cities? The way is not yet clear. Ritzema/Karcher. Tao not yet shining indeed. Clary 2. The way is not yet illumined. Wu. His administration is not beyond reproach. If he had done things right, there would have been no disturbances. Leg. Line 6 is dynamic and suggests the idea of its subject relentlessly pushing his advance with both firm correctness and exceptional force. The horns are an emblem of threatening strength, and though he uses them only against the rebels in his own state, the fact that a prince should have any occasion to use force is regrettable. This aggressiveness exceeds King Wen's concept of firm correctness for a ruler, and therefore his light is not yet that of the full-orbed sun. Notes and paraphrases. Su. The man uses force in punishing the rebellious people of his own city. This is permissible. Continuation of the offensive, especially against strangers, however, will bring occasion for regret. Wing. Take aggressive and offensive measures only when you seek to discipline yourself. Such severe precautions will help you to avoid regretful errors. Do not, however, make the mistake of using the same force on others, or you will suffer the humiliation of alienation and failure. Editor. Psychologically interpreted, the city symbolizes the psyche, and the rebels symbolize any undisciplined emotions, drives, desires, appetites, thoughts, etc. The judgment specifically mentions the importance of gaining the tranquility of the people. Here they are obviously not tranquil, so the idea of the hexagram has not been accomplished. Although force is required to stabilize the situation, martial law can hardly be regarded as anything but a temporary expedient. However necessary it may be at times, it is still humiliating for a ruler, or the ego, to have to resort to it. The line often refers to backsliding on some issue. A quote from E.C. Whitmont in The Symbolic Quest. The possibility of choice and relationship depends fundamentally upon getting out of this state of identity. As long as this unconscious identity with a drive or impulse persists, there is no possibility of choice, for we act like helpless puppets and we never know what strings have pulled us. There is no possibility for any personal conscious relatedness, because neither of two people who are identical with their impulses knows what is moving him or what. If anything, this has to do with the other person. Separation from the original state. Let me read that again. I emphasized the wrong parts. There is no possibility for any personal conscious relatedness, because neither of two people who are identical with their impulses knows what is moving him or what. If anything, this has to do with the other person. There we go. Separation from the original state of identity is fundamental for any psychological development and for personal differentiation. James Dekorne breaks changing line 6 down into one possible succinct definition. Control yourself. Discipline must be applied to the restless aspects within your own psyche. Do nothing to try to influence others. Next, I will get a randomly card-drawn verse from the Tao Te Ching while summing up the reading. Our primary hexagram 35, Advance, or James Dekorne calls it Advance of Consciousness, has Kun Earth below Li, Fire and Light, which essentially looks like the image of the sun rising above the earth. There was a really great general that did a good job, and the king, I think it was King Wu, gave him a gift of a bunch of horses. And that's kind of the idea in that hexagram. I do want to read what I-ming says about it. I-ming says in his Taoist Jing, the 35th in the yeah?
It's 5:45, Noah's awake, and I gotta go.
All right, baby. Fire above, earth below, light emerges over the earth, advancing. Thus do superior people by themselves illumine the quality of enlightenment. To illumine means to make manifest. The quality of enlightenment is the spiritual nature of innate knowledge and innate capacity that is fundamental to humankind. This nature is originally truly open, subtly existing, radiantly bright, without obscurity, but once it is mixed with acquired temperament, it goes from clarity to obscurity and loses its basic nature. But as unclarity comes from oneself, so also does clarity come from oneself. It is just a matter of whether one illumines this nature by oneself or not. If one actually knows how to illumine enlightenment, then one can illumine it. One should set right to work to cultivate it, clearing away all accumulated blockage, shed all kinds of feelings about things, and work on the ground of reality. Being careful and wary, nipping insidious inroads of conditioning in the bud, the human mentality disappears of itself and the mind of Tao manifests of itself. Temperament spontaneously sublimates and the real nature spontaneously is revealed. This then is the original open awareness without obscurity, round and bright, clean and naked, bare and untrammeled. And our supporting hexagram, Joy 16, is Kun Earth below Zen Thunder, and shows in spring thunder bursting out of the earth, awakening living things into new growth. And joy can also be misplaced. It can be something that is ego-driven versus something that comes from actual correct action or position. 16, joy. I-ming says the richness of, What the kings of yore saw in this was that virtue is what is commanded by heaven and is the root of human life. So it should be a joy to cultivate and practice it. Therefore they made music to honor virtue. Joy is that whereby virtue is made harmonious. Virtue is that whereby joy is made complete. If one creates enjoyments without honoring virtue, that is called creating enjoyment in the midst of misery. But by using joy to harmonize virtue, the virtue becomes more exalted. By using virtue to create joy, the joy becomes more harmonious. When virtue and joy coincide, this is called true happiness. Our changing line 6 of our primary hexagram, 35, advance of consciousness, shows somebody with their horns charging, and there's no fault in what they're doing. They're only punishing the feudal lords, I believe, or the people that are unrestrained in their own city. But even to act like that at all for a king is apparently not great. It's humiliating, is the idea. And the idea is that the situation is not fully illumined quite yet. The orb of the sun has not reached the height of the sky, that kind of an idea. So breaking it down further, we have hexagram 35, advance of consciousness. Someone's being rewarded by the self. It's the executive officer that basically all of the other lines follow and honor. And he's doing the will of the self, and so he's being promoted. So it's a time for people to basically follow and be in joyous celebration of somebody or a situation. And then with joy, it could be either misplaced joy or it could be joy that is coming from a correct position. And so I guess inwardly we're to determine that ourselves, but due to the kind of auspicious / inauspiciousness of changing line 6, just charging with horns to try and deal with something, it's as though there's still work to be done in the goal of enlightenment, and that the full orb of the sun has not completely risen. So there's still work to be done, clearly, and yet it's a time of advancement and celebration for past successes and wins. And so, in a sense, joy placed in that regard, I would say, is good. And yet we are to look and see if our joy is based on virtue and supported by it, or if it is absent of virtue and is just really, in the end, celebrating that which shouldn't be celebrated, if that makes sense. Verse 66 in the Tao Te Ching. My copy is by Jia Fu Feng in Jane English. Chapter 66. Why is the sea king of 100 streams? Why is the sea king of 100 streams? Because it lies below them. Therefore it is the king of 100 streams. If the sage would guide the people, he must serve with humility. If he would lead them, he must follow behind. In this way, when the sage rules, the people will not feel oppressed. When he stands before them, they will not be harmed. The whole world will support him and will not tire of him. Because he does not compete, he does not meet competition.